going to be going over how to properly set a towing preset for when you're towing our product down the road. The first thing that you're going to want to do is get the trailer to a somewhat flat surface, and the reason for that is we want to get a decent baseline that we can utilize to start the setup process for when we tow a trailer down the road. Step one, obviously, is get the trailer connected to your truck before you start messing with any air portion of the suspension. Okay, so there's a couple different ways that you can adjust the suspension on your trailer. You can either use the fixed serve display inside the trailer, or if you've got an earlier model and have the removable display, that's an option. Most people utilize the RV Controls app, the Garmin RV Controls app on their smart device. It's just easier, it's simpler. Who doesn't have their phone in their pocket, right? Just one less extra thing you gotta carry around. So step one, lower the trailer onto the receiver of the tow vehicle. Please ensure that you retract the jack as far up as it could go. Last thing you want is you're driving down the road and you catch the leg on something and you fold it over. Make sure your safety chains are hooked up, your breakaway cable's hooked up, the latch on the hitch is down, the coupler's seated on the ball correctly, and your 7-way plug is plugged into the trailer. All right, now that we've got the trailer hooked up to the tow vehicle, before we get on to the next step, there's two things that I feel are really important for the user, the operator, to know and to understand. One of which is anytime we're adjusting this trailer, it is better to go from the lowest portion of the trailer up. We'll get a better result out of the suspension if we go from low to high versus adjusting it from high down to low. So just keep that in mind anytime you're adjusting the trailer. And we'll do it here in a second. When you're establishing a preset, you always want to take it down to the kneel position first and raise it up to where you want it. The other part that we need to be aware of is inside each individual airbag is an internal bump stop. Anything less than 45 PSI, we're still riding on those bump stops a little bit. So generally speaking, and this can change from model to model, it can change based on loadout. Generally speaking, when we're traveling down the road with a pause trailer with this MORryde Air 2 suspension, we want the PSI to be 45 PSI or north of that. Again, that'll vary from model to model and your loadout, but just understand those two things. So now that we have the trailer hooked up to the tow vehicle, the next step in this process is to take it all the way down to the kneel position. That can simply be done by pressing the kneel button on the RV Controls app on the camping screen or the travel screen. System will take it all the way down so that there's no air. There's 15 PSI or less in the airbags. What we want to do is adjust the trailer up until the indicators are close to, the ride height indicators are close to the center of the green on each side. Generally speaking, what I like to do is I'll take both sides up equally to about 45 PSI, and then I'll make the small adjustments from side to side there. It just saves a little bit of time. So right now I'm pressing the plus button, which adjusts both sides of the suspension at the same time. I'm gonna take it up to roughly 45 PSI on both sides, and then I'll allow the system to get there. Once the system gets there, then we'll go from one side to the other side and make the fine-tuning adjustments. One thing to note, obviously, is even with the trailer empty, the weight from one side of the trailer to the other side of the trailer is going to be different just through the interior components. The weight distribution isn't equal from one side to the other, so that's something that you'll have to learn for each individual trailer. They're all going to be slightly different, especially when you start loading things in there. So if you realize taking both sides up to 45 PSI initially creates a situation where you then have to drop one side back down, just start off at a lower number on that side and continue the process. So now if you look down here at the ride height indicator on the passenger side, the indicator is on the line where the yellow and green touches. So what I want to do is in increments of 2 PSI, I'm going to take this side up until I'm comfortable with where the indicator is in the green there. Okay, so I ended up making 2 different adjustments. I took it from, I think it was at 41, I took it up to 43. Didn't really move a whole lot. It was still at the bottom of the green there, and then took it from 43 to 45. And as you can see, that 2 PSI raised it all the way up from the lower portion of the green to the center of the green. When you make these adjustments, that's part of the reason why you need to make them in increments of 2. 1 PSI, if you adjust it 1 PSI at a time, because of how the system reads itself, it reads in a couple decimals, adjusting it 1 PSI at a time might not trigger the system to correct, to make a change. 2 PSI will always enforce that. So just keep in mind when you're making the adjustments to your suspension, whether it be here or while you're traveling down the road, increments of 2 PSI, really nothing more, nothing less. That'll get you real close to where you need to be. So now that we're good on this side, we're gonna hop over to the driver's side and do the exact same thing. All right, now we're over on the driver's side of the trailer. Currently, my pressure is set at 46 PSI, and that's what it's actually reading. And the indicator is almost in the same spot as it was on the passenger side. It's about halfway through the bottom portion of the yellow. So again, I'm gonna make a 2 PSI adjustment and allow the system to make that adjustment and then stop moving. Okay, so about the same result as previously on the passenger side. I'm gonna take it up another 2 PSI. Keep in mind as we're going through this process on this particular trailer, which is a 21.4, the driver's side of this trailer is decently heavier than the passenger side. So a 2 PSI adjustment on this side is not going to net you as much of a result as it would on the lighter side, the passenger side of the trailer. This is the same concept for 20.2s, 20.3s, 16.4s. It's all the same thing, and it's just one of those things that you'll learn with your own trailer. So we're right here, we're just shy of, we're just below the center of the green. For this particular trailer right here, I'm not going to adjust it any further because I feel like if I take it up another 2 PSI, I'm gonna overshoot the area that I wanna be at. All right, so we just got through going over the fine-tuning adjustments needed to go through the establishing a preset process. The very next step in this process is to save our current pressures that we just got done setting. We need to save those as a preset. So how you do that is you go to the travel screen on the suspension page there, and there's 3 presets, 1, 2, or 3. You just push and hold one of those for about 3 seconds until the pressures displayed on that preset reflect the current pressures that you just set on your trailer. So now I'm set there. My current pressures are 50 on the driver's side and 45 on the passenger side. Now, one thing you will notice is when you set your preset, that preset does not highlight itself blue. What that means currently is we just essentially, we set the radio station, but we're not listening to the radio. We're not hearing the music that it's producing right now. So what we want to do is select that preset so that the preset itself is highlighted blue. Once that preset is highlighted blue, we know that we're listening to the music. We know that we're operating within that preset. A couple things that we need to discuss here is the position of the trailer itself, right? So when you're stationary, setting your presets here, or when you're going through the leveling process, that really is the only time that you should be paying attention at all to the pitch and roll displayed from the accelerometer on your device within RV controls. At no other point when you're driving down the road, the pitch, the roll, none of that is relevant information, only when we're stationary. With that being said, when you look at the pitch and roll, keep in mind that those are measured in degrees. So currently my roll is 0.5 degrees to the driver's side. That means that the trailer is leaning 1/2 of a degree lower on the driver's side than what it is on the passenger side. If you can do this in the manner in which I just told you how to do it and get your roll to 0.0, stop what you're doing immediately and go buy a lottery ticket. because it doesn't happen very often. And honestly, you know, a degree or two is something that you can adjust, you can manipulate. Just understand that we're talking in tenths of degrees when you're looking at these numbers here. The other thing that I want you to understand is that the ride height indicators are simply there to get you in the ballpark of where you need to be. How the trailer is handling when you're traveling and visual inspection of the trailer when it pertains to the pitch and roll of it, and the set pressures, the current red pressures that the suspension is set at, all of those trump that sticker. Because remember, we said we need to be above 45 PSI when we're traveling down the road. And we need to understand that there are a lot of different variables that go into creating an acceptable and safe driving situation. There's 4 airbags, 2 different sets that we can adjust on this trailer. We can adjust the hitch on the tow vehicle. Maybe your tow vehicle has airbags. Maybe you prefer towing your trailer on a complete flat plane. Maybe you like it nose down a little bit. Maybe your loadout's different and you need to adjust one side higher or lower than the other. All of these variables come into play when establishing presets for individual tow vehicles, and they're all based on whatever the operator wants, whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever creates the safest environment for you while you're towing. So just understand that this is a process. It takes time, and you're gonna have to play with it. But the good thing is right now with this setup right here, with the preset that I just established, as long as I'm using this tow vehicle and my loadout is relatively the same in the future as what it currently is right now, I can use that preset as a pretty good baseline to get me where I need to be initially. All right, so just understand that this is not a one and done, set it and forget it type situation when you're establishing a good baseline for your preset. It's a process, and the more that you pay attention to the things that we're talking about, and the more that you understand the process, the easier it's gonna be and the more enjoyable of a towing experience you're gonna have. So with that being said, we're ready to travel down the road. We're currently driving down the road. One thing that you need to keep in mind is that we want you to travel with the trailer in its current state for 5 to 10 minutes before you make any sort of adjustments. This allows the rough spots in the suspension to work themselves loose, allows things to get warmed up and adjusted as it goes down the road. Now, the best way to observe your trailer as you're driving down the road visually is to just utilize your rear view mirror and look straight back at the trailer like you currently see right now. You'll notice right above the A-frame storage box, there's a perfectly straight line, and your tow vehicle, if you use the line created by the rearmost portion of the bed, bounce that line off of the line on the front of the trailer. That gives you a pretty good reference point of which way you need to adjust the trailer. So now we've been driving for about 10 minutes, and you notice that the passenger side of the trailer is just a smidge lower than what we would like it to be. It's not on the same plane essentially as the tow vehicle, and that's simply due to the crown and the road. So what I'm gonna do right now is, in increments of 2 PSI, I'm going to adjust the low side of the trailer up to the high side. Like I said before, we always want to adjust whatever side is low up to the high side. We don't want to adjust, if we can, we don't want to adjust from high to low. So as I'm driving down the road right here, I'm going to bump the passenger side up 2 PSI from 45 PSI to 47 PSI. Now, if you notice that as soon as you make any sort of individual adjustment to either the driver's side or the passenger side of the trailer, it will pull you out of the preset that you were previously in. So if you look on the screen, you'll see that preset number 1 is no longer selected. That's perfectly okay. We're making adjustments. The system is still operating as we need it to operate. So don't be too concerned about that portion right now. Now, once you make your adjustments, you don't want to continually make adjustments. When you make an adjustment, you want to give it 2, 5, 6 minutes to allow the system to perform the steps that it needs to perform. When you make an adjustment and you're traveling down the road, it's a slow burn adjustment, and it does that on purpose. We don't want to overshoot our target pressure and then have to come back down. So the system will make slow adjustments. It takes a whole slew of readings in the suspensions, and this is the airbags and the pressures. It, you know, averages things, and it makes its adjustments based on all of those calculations. So we have to allow the system time to do that. So make an adjustment, let it ride for 3 or 4 minutes, and then see where you're at from there. You'll also notice on the screen here that the pitch and roll numbers are just going crazy, which is another reason why we say while you're traveling down the road, pitch and roll is not useful information to even be looking at. So I put 2 PSI in the passenger side of the trailer, and it brought it up a little bit. I'm gonna give it another 2 PSI and we'll see where we're at. Right now, the trailer looks pretty good. I mean, it's towing well. Visually speaking, it looks pretty good. We're towing on a good plane. One side's not too high, the other side's not too low. We're just about right where we wanna be. The line that we see on the bed of the truck pretty closely matches the line on the trailer. And so because we've made adjustments, like I said before, it pulled us out of that preset. So I'm just gonna push and hold preset number 1 until the numbers reflect the current set pressures, and then I'll select it to make sure that we're operating inside the preset. Now this preset can be used as a baseline for future use. Keep in mind that this preset is based on the settings of this tow vehicle. It's based on the current loadout of that trailer, and it's also based on a multitude of other things, but mainly the road conditions that we're traveling on. So you might notice that you use this preset and then you go from a county road to a highway, and your trailer is now not in the same orientation from a roll perspective as it was previously. And that's because when you make adjustments to the suspension on the trailer, the trailer is driving the suspension to the pressures that you set it at, and is not driving itself to relative compared to anything, the road condition, the earth, any of that. We're simply telling the trailer, I want you to be at this pressure, and I want you to maintain that pressure regardless of the environment that the trailer is in. So this system, as you're traveling down the road, if the crown of the road changes, the substrate you're driving on changes, and it puts the trailer in a position where the visual inspection of the roll is going to produce a result that's different than you previously experienced, that's when you need to make an adjustment to the suspension, or not make an adjustment to the suspension based on your personal preferences and the situation that you're in. If you don't feel it necessary and you feel safe towing the trailer and it's performing exactly as it should, perfect. Again, these are all things that you just need to keep in mind that are a part of the process as we're traveling down the road. Okay, so we just got done traveling and we pulled back into the parking lot that we were in when we went through the prior process here. And we did that for a very specific reason, because I wanted to show you exactly what happens to the trailer when you change the substrate in which you're towing the trailer on. So if you remember before we left, we were 0.5 degrees lower on the driver's side than we were on the passenger side, as it's read by the accelerometer on the trailer. And the trailer looked pretty level. Currently, sitting in the exact same spot, we are now 1.3 degrees higher on the passenger side than we are on the driver's side. And as you can tell, the trailer is considerably higher, and it's at the exact pressures that we set it at based on the road conditions that we were experiencing driving down the road. So just to understand that when you're traveling down the road and you pull into a parking lot and you look back at your trailer and you're, initially thinking to yourself, holy cow, what is this trailer doing? It's got a mind of its own. That's not how it was when we left. if you made adjustments to it and all of that stuff, just understand that the trailer is set exactly where I set it at when we're traveling down the road, based on the conditions of the road that we were traveling on. It's important to understand that when we go through that preset process and we're establishing that baseline, that it's just that, it's a baseline. And as we travel on different roads, we're adjusting that, you know, we're adjusting for the road conditions, and we're resaving that preset or creating a new preset for whatever our needs are. Just understand that adjustments are part of the process, and when you change the substrate in which the trailer is being towed on, it's going to change the visual outcome of the trailer itself. Again, nothing wrong with the way that the trailer's sitting, and I could drive through the parking lot like this and get back out on the road again, and it will tow exactly how I wanted it to tow previously. It's just gonna look a degree off until we get to that road again, or get on that same substrate again. You can make adjustments. Again, just allow the system time to apply those adjustments. It's a slow burn process, and there's a reason for that. So don't get ahead of yourself. Don't get a little click happy and expect instant results. I know there's, myself included, I prefer instant gratification. This is not one of those situations. Push the button, wait a couple minutes, let the system do what it needs to do, and allow it time to respond to the commands that you're giving it. If we were to look on the side of the trailer now, you would notice that the ride height indicator on the passenger side of the trailer is in the red on that side, on the current position that it's in right now in the parking lot. If we take it out to the road and we're traveling on the same substrates that we were before, that indicator is going to change. It's going to go right back down to where it was before, and the situation is going to be nice and safe and smooth, and it's going to be an enjoyable towing experience. So there's a lot of things that go into towing this trailer. There's a lot of things that can be manipulated, and there's a lot of things when you're setting up this process that you got to pay attention to and that you got to be aware of throughout the process. So there's that in its entirety. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to either myself or MoRide, and we can do whatever it is that we need to do to better explain the situation that you may be dealing with, or to help educate you further in the process. Again, we're here to help in any way that we can. We want all of our customers to have an enjoyable towing experience. We want them to take this trailer to places that it's meant to be taken to, and if there's anything that we can do to help that process along, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, thank you guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.